Warriors are hot. It's March Madness. We're going to talk about the women's tournament. Lots of stuff to talk about. I think Brian probably saw like 3 movies last weekend. So a lot of stuff to talk about. Let's get to it now. Warriors. All right. The Warriors. I was a little worried about yesterday's game. They laid an egg against Denver, who kind of laid down and said, you can beat us. We're resting our 2 best players. And the Warriors were not up to that challenge. They played one of their worst games of the season, and definitely the worst game with Jimmy Butler on the team. And then Milwaukee comes into town, and I realized that Milwaukee is in a bit of a hurt themselves. Giannis and Lillard looked like he was an old man out there. He kind of looked like Steph when Steph was not playing very well. He just looked kind of slow and frustrated and all that. And so they put Moses. They said Moses and GP just go make Lillard's life a little bit of hell. And I was just surprised that they grinded the Milwaukee game out. So if we go backwards a little bit, you had an impressive win against the Knicks, and then you had one of the more frustrating games, but they were due for it against Denver. They don't play Denver very well anyways, normally. And then you had this back-to-back against the Bucks. So my question to you is, the last time we chatted, we talked about how high the ceiling could be for this team. Did anything in the last week and a few days change for you as far as how good you feel about the basketball team?
I don't know how much has changed in the past week or so. It's more so just strengthening beliefs based on what you see. But I will say that a win without Stephen Curry does inspire some type of like I think there was a part of it that Steph missing sucked, but at the same time it was maybe something that could have benefited the team, where Jimmy had to find a way to lead the team, where others had to find a way to step up in his absence, and therefore strengthens the team in the long run. And I don't know if I think a little bit of that happened, especially with the Jimmy thing, where he was able to kind of take over on offense. But I think I am kind of there with that. This team is a contender. Basing this team on like the past championships they've had, I don't think they're kind of up there. But just it's the message I've been saying, that I feel like it's kind of the last couple years of the West being as open as it is, with no serious contender. And you're looking at what is it, OKC and Memphis at the top, and then like Denver and the Lakers, and Houston's up there. Like, what are we talking about?
Houston has won 7 games in a row and are now in second in the West.
Exactly. And what's our season record against them? I think we lost 1 time and beat them 3 times.
The only time we are they not lost worried to Houston, about, I think, was
the in-season tournament game.
Yeah, the in-season tournament game. That was the only time.
Exactly. And I don't think they'd be scared of Houston at all. I think that'd be the ideal first-round matchup they could pull, would be Houston. So, I don't want to be in 6. I think that it sucks that, the Warriors went on a winning streak, and so did everyone else in like 2 through 7, 2 through 8 or something. Like, everyone's just on this winning streak, and it doesn't feel like they've gained much separation past like Minnesota and the Clippers and whoever else is in that 7 through 9 range. So I want them, I still think that's why it sucks losing that Denver game, because it kind of actually felt like 4 could be in reach. Mm-hmm. And it's still, a lot of these still are, but it's just a lot of things have to continue to go right, which kind of seems like it's on track too. Like, they have Toronto next, they have Atlanta next, they have Miami next, New Orleans. We knew this was like kind of a weaker schedule to in this stretch, and it has been, and they've taken advantage of it. And I think that it's going to prepare them more for some of these bigger games, because they have Memphis on April 1st. They have the Lakers right after that, 2 days later on April 3rd. And then it's Denver on a back-to-back. And then they have Houston on the 6th. So that stretch of 4 games right there is going to be a fun one to watch. But I am there with this team being a contender, not because I believe in them, but also because I don't believe in the West that much.
Do you know that all the top 8 teams in the West would actually be above the 4th team in the East?
It's like this every year. It's always funny to look at, but yeah, it's like this every single year. Where the Warriors were 10th last year, but they would have been 6th in the East. Like it's always like this since LeBron left the East. I guess I don't know.
The Pacers are 4th in the East, and they would currently be 9th in the West.
Incredible.
So I was looking at some numbers because you mentioned they won yesterday, Tuesday night's game without Steph, and that it was a rock fight kind of game. They started out really well. They actually had a really good second quarter, and they put some distance in between the two teams. And then in the third quarter, when the Warriors we go back to 2015, 2016, 2017, the third quarter was always their best quarter because they would come out of halftime and the third quarter, they knew like, okay, if we boat race this team in the third quarter, we're going to be resting in the fourth quarter. And they would just blow the doors off the team in the third. They're like the worst third quarter team right now. This is where all the turnovers happen, all the throwing the ball away, all of the bad plays seems to happen in the third quarter. So I don't know why that is the case today versus yesteryear. But the third quarter happens, and the Bucks actually take the lead late in the third, and then in the fourth quarter, Podziemski comes alive. Jimmy Butler starts attacking, and he basically does the thing that we've been so thankful that he does for the team, which is get to the free throw line and make his free throws. He was 11 of 11 from the free throw line, and they win a tough game. It was a clutch game that turned into, I think, like a 9-point victory or something like that. So that was impressive. And to do it against a team with a player like Giannis, who can generally win a lot of those grinded out games because he does similar things. It's just, you see the airball free throw.
Yeah.
The poor guy. So I mean, impressive, and I guess they kind of broke the Bucks because supposedly today Doc met with Giannis and Lillard and was like, "Do you guys have any solutions here on what the problem is with our offense?"
I mean, Dame should just put his hand up and say, "Yeah, this is just my fault." Actually, Giannis was bad too, but the thing is like Giannis had Draymond on him, who I think we should talk about for a little bit, just because I think that
because he's trying to win defensive
one
player
of
of the year.
one of the greatest defenders I've ever seen in my lifetime. Like so like I feel like not Giannis doesn't have an out per se, but Draymond was on him. But Moody, and I know GP was on a little bit of Dame too, but Moody was on Dame. And it's something I've been criticizing Moody with, because Moody and Pod split time on Dame when Dame went for like 40 something last time, and Dame couldn't do anything. So yeah, I mean, it's both of their faults. But yeah, that was interesting.
So Draymond is trying to campaign for the defensive player of the year. He mentioned after the game that without Wemby, he believes he should be at the top of that conversation. It's totally fine. He also does it in a different way than almost everybody else, and it's, I'm sure he's heard stuff about, has Draymond lost a step, this and that, and the guy's just super smart. So much so that I think I was listening to Plus Minus, and they said he was scolding some of the players for helping so much. He's like, "What? Don't like we're giving up open threes. Like I can handle this myself." So that was really fun to watch. So I was looking at some numbers. Now, I'm not even sure if I'm looking at these numbers correctly, but what I was trying to figure out. Now, this is not easy to do. What I was originally trying to figure out is, what are the statistics for the Warriors singular players pre-Jimmy and post-Jimmy? Not very easy to find, but what I did kind of through my research, what I did find was some of the on-off numbers, like when Jimmy is on the floor versus when Jimmy is not only off the floor, but not even on the team. And I wanted to see which players were beneficial to Jimmy being on the court when it comes to net rating. Do you know who the top net rating player is when Jimmy is on the court with them?
I'm assuming it's Draymond.
Draymond is third. Number 1 is Guy Santos. He has a 22 net rating when Jimmy Butler is on the floor with him. When it comes to Pods is second, and then
Okay.
Draymond is third. I
Guy
guess
Santos is probably hasn't. I don't think Guy's played that many minutes with Jimmy
that's probably also
because
what it
Guy's
is.
usually on the Steph side.
Yeah, Gary Payton bumps up a good chunk. Steph doesn't really bump up much. Like Steph is sort of the same no matter
Mhm.
what, but it's everybody else who Steph's net rating with Jimmy on the court is actually a little bit worse. But it's just everybody else jumps up with Jimmy on the court, which is what we've been talking about, right? Like this has been something that you've been talking about for the last 3 years on this show since we started doing it, was the number 2, and how do you take advantage of a scorer or a playmaker as the number 2 guy because Steph can't play 48 minutes, and it's showing with Jimmy Butler. The thing that I'm really bothered with, though, is there's a certain subsection of Warriors Twitter who are like dunking on everybody who had any sort of questions with Jimmy's behavior coming to this team. It's like, sucks to be the people who didn't think Jimmy Butler was going to be additive to this team. And I'm just like, yeah, there were rightful questions, so much so that the Miami Heat really didn't get much in that trade, for his
Yeah.
services. So
You're not allowed to make a mistake on Twitter, or else you'll have everyone who's also never made a mistake coming at your head.
I just think it's funny. Like people love patting themselves on the back. It's like, yeah, you get a 50
Twitter's no, I mean,
chance.
Twitter's so weird, but it's because like those are the people who are acting like they've never made a mistake and gotten something wrong before. But hey,
Yeah.
yeah.
Good for them. I like Warriors Twitter because Warriors Twitter is very passionate. I also have a pretty good timeline because I don't follow anybody questionable. So
Mhm.
most of the craziest takes, or the most, pat myself on the back takes, are from Sam and Andy, but I kind of know those guys, so I know to kind of take it in the jest that
Yeah, I get
they
like
are
way worse
delivering it.
than that on my timeline. But even like, we've talked about it. Like we had the conversation where I was like high on the trade, but I wasn't like, I guess I wouldn't say I was like that high. I was just like, again, any number 2 we can get, but I didn't imagine it going this well. Like this is, I don't know. I don't think anyone could have imagined it going this well. Cause even with the Jimmy fit, I was like, okay, he's a smart player. He knows how to play in the playoffs. Like it'll go well from that sense, but I worry about the spacing, like the 3-point stuff. Like Jimmy has been pretty damn terrible at 3-pointers. And I actually watched like a clip of him, like his highlights from the last time he was in the playoffs when he went to the finals. And the way he shoots the 3 there looks like he has way more lift than the way he shoots the 3-pointer here. So I'm still worried about it, on top of him not, like, it's not just like, oh, get him to the playoffs and he'll figure it out. I am a little worried about that 3-point shot even in the playoffs, but I think we forgot, or maybe just like didn't realize how much, getting to the line would change for this team, like what it would do for this team. Because before that, it was just reliant on so much ball movement and so much someone needs to hit the shot by the end of it, by the end of the ball movement and the shot clock for this team to work. The defense was good, but it was like the offense was very like, I didn't trust the offense one bit to last. Like it seemed fluky. And now because we didn't have like a strong driver, and then it was just like very 3-point reliant. And now that you add in the dimension of the free throws, where we have someone who, gets to the line, it just like changes everything. Like the shots aren't falling. Okay, at least Jimmy's still going to get to the line. And then, I guess on Denver, you still got to make those free throws because they missed a lot of them. But it seems like against Denver, yeah, like a lot had to go wrong for them to lose that game that they were still in, like the free throws weren't falling, 3-pointers weren't falling, like all of the offense wasn't falling, and they were still in that game. And I know Jamal and Nicola weren't there. They better have still been in that game, but it was, I do think the free throws, like we couldn't have realized how much that would change this team.
The free throws, and then just the unselfishness, almost to a fault sometimes. Because I think
Yeah.
sometimes he's throwing a grenade to somebody who's just
Oh, did
like,
you see him have a drive and pass to the left corner for a Draymond 3 with 2 seconds left on the shot clock? It's like he had the layup. Like he could have gone to the line, or he could have, that's probably a better shot regardless of how covered you are than the left corner Draymond 3-pointer.
yeah, but there was the Quentin Post comment about, you getting the late shot on the shot clock, and he's like, no, if Jimmy passes it to me, then I know it's the right play, so I'm just shooting it. That's why he passed it to me. So
Yeah.
that's the right mentality. And you know who actually has been making his shots is GP.
Okay, wait, can I take the floor real quick?
Okay.
I need to apologize to Gary Payton and his family. He
Because
was the one.
you were putting him in the trade.
Not in the trade. You kept asking me. You were like, Jonathan Kuminga's coming back.
Who gets
How do
bumped?
we keep Guy Santos from how does his minutes stay the same? And I said Gary Payton becomes situational.
Yeah.
He is so not situational. He's like the 5th best player on this team. He's making shots. They have him like on ball, which is like some of the most scary times I've watched Gary Payton in my career is when he has to put the ball on the ground. It's so suspect. Like there was a time where I remember in the finals against Boston where he got lucky and got bailed out with a foul. I think it was before the transition take foul got implemented. It would have been a transition take foul because what they made it sound like is that a Celtics player clipped his back foot and he fell because he had a fast break drive. He fell on his own. He clipped his own feet because he's so uncoordinated dribbling the ball. But that's changed. I guess I heard either from the broadcast or from Plus Minus that he was actually like a point guard in high school and college or something like that. So like he has some of those skills, but there's been a lot of him like dribbling up the ball that I was always scared of before then. But he's completely proven me wrong. He's not situational at the he is a bona fide rotation player. I love you, Guy, but you're gonna lose some minutes. We'll see how the JK thing progresses, but GP has been like sensational. He's been so good.
Can I do a Guy take on your take?
Sure.
I think 3 to 5 minute stint Guy every half is maybe the most valuable Guy that you can get. Because the longer he plays, I think the less valuable he is. But the short stints where he's got a ton of energy, he's just running into rebounds and he's, getting into passing lanes and
extending possessions.
All that stuff is great. Like, I think that's probably better to his game, at least right now, so that he doesn't get tired or they're not depending on him to make shots. But the Gary Payton stuff, the one thing about Gary was he always seemed to have open layups, and he was never you were never confident when he was driving, and except if he could finish with a dunk, then you were kind of confident. But like layups, like you're like, nope, this guy.
Oh yeah, if he is himself driving to the basket with a layup, I never trusted it. But he would get the ball a lot right under the basket, and it didn't even have to be a dunk. He just has the 6'11" or 6'9" wingspan that he could just like go up and lay it in. Like if he's like catches it 1 foot under the basket, but him himself ball handling to then lay in to then drive and get a layup, never.
Yeah, he's got this nice little like windmill scoop layup
and
that he's been doing.
Yeah.
He's kind of going underneath reverse layups. It's been nice to see because they call him the little big man, but he's like the little big man who couldn't finish, and now he's actually finishing shots. There was even a shot that he had to take. I think it was late in the shot clock. It was like it wasn't even a mid-ranger. It was like a 6-foot push shot from the baseline that he made. I was like, wow, I did not expect that to go in. So kudos to Gary Payton. So Kuminga's back. Kuminga is still dealing with, coming back from injury. I think this is his first real big injury that he's had to come back for. So he's trying to make sure he's trying to trust his body again. And I think the stints that he had been in before the last 2 games was really good. You see the energy, you see the athleticism. It's like, oh man, everyone wants to throw him alley-oops. Like Draymond just gets excited when Kuminga's on the floor. The last 2 games are a little tougher. I think he's been a little hard on himself, knowing that the Denver game, they needed him to do more. And he played okay. And then last night, he probably felt like he needed to do more with Steph out. And he was pretty poor offensively.
It was pretty bad.
He was also, and this is something to kind of watch for. I don't know who it was. Was it Trent? It was somebody who was like just irritating him. Like he would go up the court and then he'd like kind of push him, and then then they'd get in a rebounding position. He'd like slam into him, and I think it was the guy that JK got the technical on because he kind of swung him down. Whomever that was, I don't remember who it was, but that guy was antagonizing JK. He was getting mad.
I think it was Gary Trent.
He was getting really mad, getting really frustrated. He wasn't shooting well. He's back to doing that 1 foot fadeaway, which was not his best shot earlier in the year. So, I hope that they kind of work him. And at this point, it's not about, he's not playing well, he's got to sit. Like, he has to play on this team, especially on the second team with Jimmy. So, he's getting back into the swing of things, and I think he'll be good. But I also think that he's probably being a little hard on himself because he wanted to. His whole thing is like, I don't want to screw this thing up. This team has been playing really good, and then the Denver game, he's part of the screw up. So I'm sure that has kind of trickled into his head. But I hope he has a big game tomorrow against Toronto, because they have Toronto at home. Toronto's got 24 wins or whatever, but they're playing a little bit better. Warriors should win that game. But then I looked at the schedule. So the next 2 games are on the road. They play the Hawks, who are actually playing some pretty decent basketball. The Hawks right now are in the 7th spot, even though they're under 500. And they've won 6 out of their last 10.
Trae Young always gives this team problems.
And then the Warriors play the Heat, who are now 10th. They've lost 8 games in a row. So the Warriors are 15-2 with Jimmy, and now the Heat have lost 8 games in a row. So that's not great for them. Poor Wiggs.
Poor Wiggs, man.
So the Warriors, I'm sure Jimmy will be very up for that game. And so then Pelicans and Spurs, and those are very winnable games for the Warriors as the next. So that's your next 5.
It's a pretty easy schedule.
Pelicans have 18 wins. Spurs have 28. So they are the
Spurs have no Wembanyama and De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah, they're playing. We're going to see a lot of Stephon Castle in that game. He's going to try to go off. So, if we look at this from a 5-game increment, because there's only 13 games left in the season, which is crazy.
Wow.
And
dang.
So the Warriors right now have 40 wins, 13 games left. 50 wins is in sight, which is pretty tremendous from where we were just a couple of months ago.
Mm-hmm. How many wins do they have right now?
40.
Wow.
They'd have to go 10-3 to get to 50.
It's very possible.
And if we're looking at playoff positioning, the thing about this that is hard is that they're only a half a game on the T-Wolves and a full game on the Clippers. So if they do go cold or something happens, someone gets hurt, they could fall right back into the 8 hole again.
Yep.
So they're really close there. But the Grizzlies are within sniffing distance. And we'll see with the Lakers, because I don't know how much longer LeBron is going to be out. But the Lakers, they won their last 2 games, but once LeBron got hurt, they lost a couple games. So I think they've been a 500 team or whatever since LeBron got hurt. And then it looks like the Nuggets don't care as much about where they finish. So they just care about the health of Murray, and they don't want to put too many miles on Jokic. So moving up is also in the ballpark for the Warriors if they could stay hot, but also moving down could be in the ballpark for them if they don't. So they kind of have to go out and win all of these games just to secure that 6th spot for the playoffs, and maybe they could get to 5. I don't know. A 4 will be interesting, because the reason to get to 4 would be because you get the home court advantage for that first round.
Yep. So what are they out of? Sorry, what are they out of? They are 3 back from 4. They're 3 back from 5 too.
Yeah, the Lakers and the Grizzlies essentially have the same record, but The Grizzlies have played 2 more games.
4 back from Denver, 4 back from Houston.
So it'll be interesting. It'll be an interesting last 3 or 4 weeks or whatever it is of the regular season. I don't know how many weeks there are left. Let me check real quick. They wrap up 3 weeks from today, 3 weeks from yesterday, I think.
Wow.
So no, tomorrow. 3 weeks from tomorrow, sorry.
Really quick, just because I pull it up every podcast and I actually never say it, but I always pull up the lineups, like their best lineups from February 8th, because that's when they played the Bulls, Jimmy's first game to current day. And that Steph, Butler, Draymond, Moody, Pajemski lineup is still the best one at plus 41. And then I wonder from then it's second best is Butler, Green, Moody, Pajemski, Post at plus 25. And then it's Steph, Green, Buddy, Peyton, Post at plus 21. So I don't know. I always kind of feel like if maybe I could see something from there. But I'm Quentin Post is in 3 of the best 4 lineups.
The stretch, man.
Yeah. He's been I think yesterday, like I was actually very mixed on his performance. And I think Marcus said this on plus minus 2, because there was a swing, there's 4 possessions straight where Quentin Post, I'm trying to remember what he did on the first one, because I made a mental note to try to make a note of it on the podcast. But I think he turned the ball over on the first one, and then Milwaukee comes down with the ball, and then Kyle Kuzma 3-pointer, just Quentin helping. Then the Warriors go back for the ball, and Quentin Post cuts to the basket, but they think because he's Quentin Posting and shoot so well that he was actually going to stay out from 3, so they pass it to a ghost because he had cut. So even though that's not his turnover, I blame him for that. And then they go back on now Milwaukee has the ball again, and boom, another sink 3-point shot. So that's giving up 2 turnovers and 6 points in the matter of 30 seconds.
And but I wonder if he was the guy that Draymond was telling not to help as much too, because he was the one who was having trouble getting back out.
That wouldn't surprise me. I know Draymond yelled at him because Pods got a board, and then Post was like in his way. And so when Pods was trying to dribble, like he bumped into Post, lost the ball. Giannis got it. Draymond has to hold him down, so that gives up a Draymond his 4th foul.
Oh, okay.
And he was yelling at Post about that. But
Post yeah. He also likes to dribble the ball down the court. he loves just taking it and going.
I love his irrational confidence. I really do. And he's like a kind of a funny guy to look at when he gets mad, and you can see him mouthing like the F word. He's like, oh, you just look like such a nice guy and funny guy. It's funny to see.
You don't know Mark Madsen. You can probably look up some videos of Shaq and Kobe Lakers teams. Mark Madsen is like the goofy white guy, like dancing, and he's kind of the clown. That's who Quentin Post reminds me of. Mark Madsen, who is the coach of the men's Cal team right now, I think, Stanford grad. But he has, like you said, the irrational confidence that he really deserves to be out on that court, and he knows that he can make a big shot. Like they're Steph. Obviously, when Steph shoots, you have the most confidence. Moody shoots, I probably have the second most confidence.
Post probably
might
3.
Be third. He might be third.
Buddy.
No.
Really? Okay.
No, but
depends on type of contest, because anytime Moody shoots, he's butt naked wide open.
Yeah. If Buddy is trying to create his own shot,
I hate it.
No. If Buddy has to take one dribble and move out of the way or pump fake, no. If Buddy's open, pretty confident. But Quentin Post is only going to shoot if he's open. So I trust that he's
Quentin Post hasn't really had any bad misses. Yeah. You know, everything always looks pretty online.
Yeah. Okay. I had one question, because I was thinking about this, and obviously Cooper Flagg is going to be the number 1 pick in the NBA draft. He is hopefully going to be okay for the tournament upcoming starting tomorrow. The Duke, I think all eyes will be on Duke as he, for the NBA draft specifically. I was looking at the teams with the worst records to see where maybe he would want to go. I'm not sure that there's a great landing spot for him when it comes to like the worst teams. Like, of course, Utah Jazz fans would be in love with the white guy who's the number one pick. Like that is like hallelujah, we struck the lottery for them. But then who wants to go play in Utah? Like they would have to trade for somebody because they're not going to get the big free agent to build. But it would give Ainge the opportunity to like, oh, you can go slow because you have Flag and you're going to have him for 5 years, and then you can slowly draft around him, build around him. You got Markkanen. So though I wonder if they're kind of duplicitous on the same team. So I think that would be Utah's favorite. I'm not sure if that's what he wants to do, but that would be Utah'd be in love with that. Then you look at the Pelicans. I don't imagine that would be a number one like scenario for him. Yeah, the Wizards, that would be crazy. The opposite of Utah when it comes to just like Jordan Poole just clowning and pulling up from 34 feet to win a game against Denver. You have the Hornets, who I don't know if I'd want to go there, though. I guess the coach is people really like the coach. So then you go up. So those are like the worst teams by far. All of those teams have under 20 wins. There's a jump up from there, though. The Nets have 23 wins. I don't know what their pick thing is all about, but that would be a nice landing spot if they have their pick. I didn't actually look.
They do have their pick. They have to have their pick.
76ers, that'd be a great landing spot for him too, because you'd play with Embiid. And
would you?
Yeah, you'd play with Embiid next year. Look,
Right,
they can't be resting this dude for the whole year for him to then not play next year. Like they got that has to be the plan. And look, maybe Paul George plays a little bit better next year. I don't know. Well, that's gonna be a tough contract. But the Spurs, that would
stop it.
If I'm the NBA, I would try to make that happen.
They literally just got Wembanyama. They need no favors. They need no favors.
Wemby, Flag, De'Aaron Fox, Stephon Castle. That's like a 42 win team next year.
Yeah, they would be awesome. I think Philadelphia would be the most fun, just to be like, what the hell's going to happen? But I think Washington would honestly, if I were him, sure, I wouldn't want to go to a poverty franchise like that. But like, you don't really have many great offers in this top 5 or 6, because Washington's never really done anything in my lifetime. But, you talk about they have Bilal Coulibaly and they have Alex Sarr, just like defensive minded players that could complement Cooper Flag. Yeah, they got Jordan running the one like crazy, but they have Bub Carrington as well, who, I think is going to be a good prospect. Like if I were like, picking my war chest of prospects, I think he would fit in Washington really well. Charlotte, I mean, I never know with Charlotte. Like they got LaMelo, they got Brandon Miller, they got Mark Williams that they just tried to trade. They drafted Tijan Salon this year, who I barely see doing anything. New Orleans, I feel like they always just have too many wings, and they just got rid of Brandon Ingram.
Yeah,
but I feel like they always just have too many wings. He just wouldn't make sense.
There's a Duke connection with Zion there as well.
Sure. Didn't Brandon Ingram go to
Brandon Ingram with Duke as well? Yeah.
Yeah. And then Brooklyn was the one who I thought he was for sure going to go to, but they just keep kind of winning.
Yeah,
so,
I think that would be a really good landing spot from a talent perspective. But then they also got guys who, those they probably think they're the guy, and then he would have to. But I mean, he's also a good player when it comes to that, when it comes to fitting in. So that's just something I didn't even think about that until today. I was looking at these bad records. I'm like, where do people want Flag to go to? That'll be a story in the offseason. All right, let's get to our March Madness. So we have a BSPN bracket. If you want to join, and you have until Friday morning when the games start, it is in the YouTube link if you're watching live, or you're watching the video. It is in the summary of the YouTube show, and it is also in the summary of the audio version. Just links to joining. You just have to click the link, and you'll automatically be popped
I wonder if
in.
you could just look it up. Can you just look up Valks Valley?
There's a way to do it because we have like a code to the thing, but I think they would have to look up BSPN. I think is it under Valks Valley or is it under BSPN? I
think you named it Valks Valley.
Okay,
so
maybe it is under Valks Valley. So what we're gonna do is we're going to fill out our Valkyrie's Valley bracket, which we are putting in the athletics bracket, March Madness bracket. So we're gonna do, and we'll show it for folks watching on video. We'll show the actual website of us doing it. So let's get to the Valks Valley segment.
Valks Valley.
Home run. All right, gonna do this fancy thing called share the screen, and let's see if I can find our bracket. And I think I got it. So what we did in the first round is we picked out all the first round. We only had a few upsets because with the women's bracket, it is probably best to take most of the favorites. There's some 8-9 games and some 7-10 games that we flipped around. We had Indiana beating Utah. They're the 9. Utah's the 8. We had Creighton beating Illinois as a 9. And I think you wanted Harvard as a
yeah. And to be honest, like it's because who are they playing again? Michigan State. Like I maybe have watched one Michigan State game this year. Like I don't really know the players. I just know that since the beginning of the season, I've heard of Harmony Turner's name, and it sounds like she's just the best player in that game.
And just be real, because Zena Keita picked Harvard.
That is not why at all.
She's very hard on the Harvard upset. She's been adamant about the Harvard upset. Okay, so let's go to the second round, the round of 32, and this is the Spokane bracket. So UCLA, Georgia Tech, obviously UCLA.
Yep.
Now here's an interesting one: Mississippi and Baylor.
See, I haven't even watched. This is where like I've watched a lot of women's hoops this year. I haven't watched a single game of Mississippi.
I heard way more about Baylor.
Exactly. Baylor lost to Duke in their conference championship. So I would pick Baylor. Like that's what I did in my bracket. I know that. I think FSU or Florida State and LSU could be a fun one. Just because like
you're a sneaky one because Florida State has the top scorer in the league, right? The top scorer in all of college basketball. Yep. And I have I always root for FSU because Amaya Bonner, who's the daughter of my high school friend, she gets some minutes. She doesn't play a lot, but she's also on that team. But I can't imagine they get by LSU. Even LSU, the one thing about LSU is they have the injuries that they're dealing with. But it sounds like Flage and Anissa Mora are going to be able to play, and so I can imagine that they're probably the best bet to move on if those two are healthy.
I agree. I think that's a game I will 100% be watching just because I think there is upset potential based on the factors of those girls maybe not being fully healthy.
All right. And then we have NC State beating Harvard.
Yep.
All right. So now we go to Birmingham 2. We have South Carolina, obviously.
I think starting here, though, like South Carolina, I think has the easiest path to the championship. And I think we'll see this as we continue to.
So I know you like some of the players on Maryland. I don't know too much about Alabama at all.
I would pick Maryland just because I actually had picked Alabama at first. Maryland was pretty injured. I think I've told you that they lost to Michigan in their conference tournament. Michigan then went on to lose.
They got smoked, didn't they?
They got smoked. And my favorite player on that team, who I think is the best player on that team, Cheyenne Sellers, she only played like 4 or 5 minutes. It felt like it. I don't know the exact stat. It felt like she barely played. I think she was a little injured. She got roughed up against Ohio State, and I don't think I think with this time off, I think I would go back to a Maryland pick. Like I think a healthy Cheyenne Sellers, along with I forget the point guard's name, but I would pick Maryland here.
UNC in West Virginia.
I think UNC's fraudulent, but I think they're better.
And so if we get Duke, I'm sure we're taking Duke over Vandy. Duke in North Carolina to get to the Elite Eight is kind of tremendous.
Yeah. By the way, you should watch Duke versus Vanderbilt because Vanderbilt has 2 very interesting players. Michaela Blakes is, I think, what her name is, and I think she scored like 50 something this year, and she's a freshman.
Oh yeah. I heard about that.
She's a bucket getter, and then this is just pronunciation stuff, but I think it's Camille Pierre or So her story was that she wanted to go to Arizona, my school, but the Arizona ended up picking Brea Cunningham over her. And Brea's
wow.
been pretty good. She was a top recruit for last year, but I mean, Pierre's on the better team and Pierre might be playing better. So that's just like I have like a little bit of a horse in the race. Not really, but I think that should be a game you watch because I don't think Duke's a 2, but I don't think Duke's outstanding by any means. Like I think they had a good conference run where they beat Notre Dame and they beat NC State, and I think that gave them a lot of clout, which is good for them. They beat them and they won that conference. But other than that, like I think I'm picking, right when they run into South Carolina, I'm picking South Carolina so easily.
All right, and in the Spokane 4, we have USC and Cal. Cal's the only Bay Area team in the tournament.
And they're getting bounced.
UCLA should not
USC.
have too many. USC should not have problems with them.
Correct.
Kentucky and Kansas State.
This is a tough
4 or
one
5.
because Kentucky has Georgia Amore, who we know because we've heard a lot about. The Valkyries maybe getting her. Kansas State has, I believe, Ioka Lee. If you could press the information button there. See, I haven't watched too much Kansas State because I didn't really want the Valkyries to draft like a 6th or 5th year graduate student. But she apparently their record when she plays is outstanding. But she missed a lot of the year, and they didn't do too well.
They're not even sure if she's going to be 100% ready for the tournament. I know this Yahoo bracket says they believe she'll be ready, but I was reading the Athletics lead up and they weren't as certain. So
she would probably
hope
be,
so. You would hope so.
100%. Ioka Lee would probably be the best player in this game. And usually you want to take whoever has the best player, but I'd probably go Kentucky.
Okay.
But I will be watching that game.
All right. Iowa, Oklahoma. No. Is Caitlin going to be there? She'll probably be there, right?
She could inspire the
will of Caitlin.
I mean, she inspired them to beat USC, which is such a weird win for that Iowa team. I like Iowa. I mean, we like Stolke from Caitlin playing there, and then they have oh my goodness, what's her name? Their best player, something Olsen is
Lucy Olsen. And then obviously UConn beating Oklahoma State. Though Oklahoma State, do they have any players who you have your eyes on?
I thought they had a better team last year. No, I don't. No.
Okay, so now we have Birmingham 3, Texas beating Creighton.
100%.
Now Ohio State and Tennessee. We actually saw Ohio State play when
their
came
press
to the Bay
defense
Area.
is still a thing. They do really well in the press. That's gonna be a good one too. I'll be watching that one. I don't know. You can make the call here. I would probably lean Ohio State, but then maybe that's some bias because we saw them play. Talasia Cooper's awesome.
They also have struggled later in the season, so they're not necessarily the hot team coming into the tournament. But we'll go with them because we did get a chance to see them. And then Michigan Notre Dame. This is
don't pick it too easily. Yes, I think Notre Dame's going to win.
Interesting one.
This is a game I have circled because Michigan beat Maryland in the conference not championship, but the conference tournament. They gave USC a good 3.5 quarter run for their money before USC took them out to then lose to UCLA. But this Michigan team has 2 very interesting freshmen. Silas Swords, she will be an NBA player. She's only a freshman. I'm very convinced that both her and Olivia Olsen will be WNBA players. They keep impressing me every time I watch them. They were the team that actually gave South Carolina a little bit of run for their money the very first game of the season. So then of course Notre Dame's been butt cheeks for the past month since they lost to NC State. They lost to NC State. The very next game they lose to Florida State. And then in the tournament they lose to Duke, not even in the championship game. So Notre Dame, but you would think that a team with 5 WNBA players, Sonia Citron.
I'm not scared. You might be scared. I'm not scared.
See, this is where I had a conversation with my friends, and I was like, last year I didn't know that much besides Angel Reese is one of the best players. Heck yeah, of course I'm choosing LSU to go high up. Of course I'm choosing South Carolina. Following the 1 seeds, like you said at the beginning of this, is pretty safe when it comes to women's basketball because that's basically all I did last year, and I had a pretty damn good bracket. But now this year, almost knowing a lot more is I don't know if it's going to do me a disservice or not because I've debated a lot if I'm choosing Michigan, and
the way that I look at this is if Notre Dame does not get it together by the tournament, like, what a failure of a season, because they were early in the season, they were one of the number ones. And I know that flip-flop, I think there were like 4 or 5 teams that were actually number one this year, which doesn't generally happen. But this is the time to get it together. They have the most talent. I guess, this is the coaching matters right now. How do you get them focused? How do you get them back to what they were? I am not scared, and I am also not scared for the next round. But I also lean towards what you said earlier, which is, you kind of lean on taking the best player, and it's like the best players for them.
Yeah, when it comes to, if you we do with the NBA, where it's like, who's the best 5 players in this series?
Mm-hmm.
You probably, for this Michigan Notre Dame game, you probably go Hannah Hidalgo, Olivia Miles, Sonia Citron, and then Silas Swords, and then Olivia Olson, and then you go back to Notre Dame for a couple more players.
And the other thing is the freshman thing, which there are some scenarios in which the freshmen kind of, they see the moment and they play well. And Michigan, historically, the Fab Five, on the men's side, that's kind of their thing. I just can't imagine 2 freshmen leading over this heavy, talented team like that.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on Notre Dame. The TCU Louisville game is something that the Athletic keeps talking about, because Haley Van Lith, I forget her, HVL.
Mm-hmm.
Louisville was a team she was on for 3 years of her college career, and that's where she kind of made her mark. And then she does 1 year at LSU and now 1 year at TCU. But apparently, this game could have happened. Louisville versus LSU could have happened last year, but Louisville lost early. So they were saying, like, it'd be funny if this game doesn't happen again this year.
What is the reason for her to have played for 3 different schools?
I think for maybe she was championship chasing. That LSU team was the first, like, feels like post what's it called when the portal? It felt like portal empowerment, like transfer the first portal. Like super team made from a portal, because they got Anissa Morrow and Haley. And then I think when Angel left, I think there was some maybe complaint about HVL like not getting used properly. And so then, I mean, good for her to switch.
Maybe that coach was just mean to her.
Maybe, but good for her to switch, because she looks like the best player on this team who's a 2 seed. Where on LSU, she would have, Flage would have gotten more opportunity. Michaela Williams would have gotten more opportunity. And Anissa Morrow would have gotten more opportunity.
All right. We're not afraid of Baylor if you're UCLA. UCLA just has more talent.
Yep.
I think it's an easy one. And LSU and NC State, this is an interesting one.
It is. LSU kind of whooped them a little earlier in the year, but NC State's gotten better.
And this is one of the rare occasions where, when you look at the Yahoo rankings, or when you look at the Yahoo bracketing, most of the times, because there's a lot of fans who are just kind of looking at who the majority of the people are picking, and then they just go with that. NC State as the 2 seed, LSU as the 3 seed. LSU actually has a higher percentage of people choosing them in this matchup.
Yeah, it's name recognition, right? Like people who watch women's basketball who are doing this bracket, like just like I did last year, like Angel Reese. This is an Angel Reese team. Let's pick LSU. That's why I'm sure if you look at that Iowa game that we picked for them to lose, I bet I wouldn't be surprised if more people have Iowa as the favorite. Can you look at that?
You're talking about the
one we had them
Iowa,
lose.
Oklahoma.
Iowa.
No, Oklahoma, 65%.
Wow, very interesting.
Yeah.
But okay, so let's go back to the.
So what do you think?
I would probably choose NC State to get their get back, because I just think that they've figured it out more down the stretch. Like watching NC State earlier in the year versus watching them now, I actually think it's a completely different team. So
we're pretty chalk here. So for this bracket, Spokane won. So for Birmingham to easy, South Carolina
easy,
and then you have North Carolina and Duke. You like Duke over North Carolina?
Yeah, I mean, I think that whole entire side is weak.
Okay, so now we go to Spokane 4. You have USC and Kentucky. I think we believe in Juju and Kiki. And then you have Oklahoma and UConn.
Thank you, UConn. You're about to give us the best game of the tournament.
All right.
Against USC.
That's going to be a lot of fun. And then we have Texas, Ohio State.
I think Texas is the most fraudulent 1 seed,
Mm-hmm.
but I think they still beat Ohio State.
Yeah, it's actually very heavy on the Texas lean. I was wondering if some of like the smarter college basketball fans were looking at this one as a possible upset, but it does not look like it. And then Notre Dame and TCU. Where's your lean here? You going risky?
It's another one
safe?
where it's just like LSU and NC State, where LSU actually beat NC State. Same with TCU. They beat Notre Dame to give the Notre Dame their first loss of the year earlier in the season. But again, Notre Dame just has the talent. Like, I think they would do things differently. You know, they actually held a pretty comfortable lead in the game where they lost to TCU, and then TCU just kind of slowly crept back. And then, like, Notre Dame, I feel like had kind of like competitively like turned it off by the time, and then they just were like not able to battle back. So I think this is just where I'm like, this is just different. Like I said with NC State, how it's like a different team watching them early in the season versus now. Like, it could be a very different Notre Dame team, and it could spoil our entire bracket of like them, you know, losing to Michigan or something. Like, that spoils it. But I think we're kind of taking the side of like a reinvigorated Notre Dame that realizes that we just lost 3 out of 5 and realizes that we probably have the most talented roster in the entire bracket here. We cannot lose this. So I think I'm willing to go with Notre Dame here.
You know why I also like them is because a lot of the people who we kind of trust, like Chantel and Sabrina, they're like, yeah, Notre Dame didn't play well, but just from a talent perspective, they're so much better than these other teams that they probably get past. You know, there's just not that many upsets in the women's tournament quite yet because of the talent discrepancy, though.
Yeah.
You know, I think people really believe that as we do this in the next few years, it's going to be the discrepancy is going to be a lot closer, and there may be more upsets in the future.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, so we are in the Elite Eight here. To get to the Elite Eight, or are we in the Elite Eight?
This is the Final Four?
Yeah, this is the Elite Eight to get to the Final Four. UCLA and NC State.
UCLA. I think you go ones here. You go South Carolina as well. Or I don't know if I'm doing it out of order right now, but
yeah. And then
I think you take UConn.
And then 1 against 3.
Take Notre Dame. Take them.
They're 3 seed. So our Final Four is 2 1s, a 2, and a 3.
We should probably talk about the bottom games though, with USC and Connecticut. USC beat. So okay, going back to last year, I think they met in the Elite Eight. I think that's what it was, and it was a great game. But UConn got the best of Juju. But now, of course, Juju comes back with a better team and technically a better seed, and they played earlier in the year. And USC only beat UConn by a little bit, but this is a UConn team that didn't have AZ Fudge. She had came back, but then she got injured again, so she missed a couple games, which also included this one. And then, you know, I don't think they had Al-Alfi, their center. I think they were starting Ice Brady, but now they have a different starting center that's been great for them. And also this just who Sarah Strong has just slowly become. She was the #1 recruit. She just got second team All AP or something like that for the women's college basketball. She's going to be one of the best players in the WNBA in 6 years. So I think I'm going to go. I think UConn has the talent and they have, the championship pedigree with the coach. Like, I just did an exercise where I just randomly was just looking at who has won all the
titles.
Gino. A lot of Kim Mulkey's when she was in Baylor won a lot. Tara has like 3. I think she has 3, but it's a lot of I already forgot his name. It was the dude, Pat Summitt.
Oh no. You're talking about the Tennessee coach. No, she's a woman.
Oh.
Yeah, she passed away not that long ago. But yeah, Pat Summitt was Candace's coach, Candace Parker's coach.
Yeah, she has a ton.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so now we have UCLA and UConn. I'm interested in the percentage. It's like almost 50-50 when you get here for these brackets.
I would lean UConn. And the reason I say this is because I think you look at UCLA's schedule, their pre-conference schedule where they had that big win over South Carolina. We were all like, holy crap, here comes UCLA. I kind of feel like they didn't have many test matchups since then, whereas USC went and played, USC didn't play South Carolina in their pre-conference matchups, but they played UConn, they played Notre Dame, and they lost. I think they just kind of like tested themselves more, where I feel like UCLA, as crazy as it sounds to say this about the number 1 overall seed, I still kind of feel like they're a little untested for some of these, like they haven't seen UConn, they haven't seen Notre Dame, and they haven't seen, they haven't seen Texas, they haven't seen Duke, they have, NC State, like they haven't seen a lot of these teams that I feel like UConn could actually be a good, like, hey, like this is the type of teams you should have been playing. And so I think I would lean UConn here.
And then South Carolina, Notre Dame. So our Notre Dame,
they come to an end here.
Our Notre Dame run here ends just because
it's not an easy pick, but dude, I just can't keep giving this Notre Dame team the benefit of the doubt. At some point, I'm just gonna be like, you guys have lost like way too much.
So then we have South Carolina, last year's champs, against UConn.
I've got to say, this isn't my favorite matchup. I almost wish it was like UConn Notre Dame would be more fun, just because we've already seen UConn South Carolina. Not to say that it's going to go the same, but UConn beat South Carolina at South Carolina's house this year.
Yep,
like by a good margin.
But that is a little bit of a Dawn Staley revenge factor there.
Yeah, it is.
So who do you think wins this one? I think
South Carolina does.
I think this was where I got to in my personal bracket, and I had UConn winning just because that's what I want to see.
Yeah, I want to see UConn win too. But actually, I don't know. I don't know who I want to see.
We can go South Carolina. I'm sure when it comes out, like when they do all the tallies of all the teams who people have winning, I'm sure South Carolina is number 1. And I would imagine UCLA is probably number 2. That would be my guess. So I think most people have South Carolina winning the whole thing. All right.
I feel like they do have an easier side of the bracket. Like they either played Notre Dame or Texas. Like they've beaten up on Texas 2 out of 3 times already this year. And Notre Dame's been a little shaky. And then on Connecticut's side with UCLA, or it could be USC versus UCLA. Either way, like these are just a lot of. I would much rather be on the South Carolina side. I feel I'm maybe 60 to 65 South Carolina.
Okay. All right, there we go. Our bracket is done, and that'll be it for this show. So next week, I think we can go on normal on Thursday, because the Warriors play, I believe the Warriors play like Tuesday and Friday or something like that. So we'll be good to go with our normal Thursday thing. Actually, I'm going to be in the office Thursday, so we'll have to figure out next week. I just realized that I'm going to be in the office, so we won't be able to go Thursday. I was so excited to go Thursday too, but we'll figure out next week. But we'll also be able to update on our thoughts on the tournament. And then we didn't even talk about it. Sabrina had her latest mock draft. We could probably talk about that next week, especially because we'll have some of the tournament in hindsight of her mock draft.
What we should say though is for the Valkyries, so like, this starts on Friday. So by the time we record next, it's going to be what, 2, maybe 3 rounds.
It will be in the middle of Sweet 16, more than likely.
I would say to Valkyries, people who are interested in watching who the Valkyries might select, and you look at Sabrina's mock, like watch USC for Kiki Uriafen.
That's who Sabrina has going to the Valkyries today.
Watch Notre Dame for Sonia Citron. Watch UConn for AZ Fudd.
Did she say she was coming out for sure?
No, we still don't know, but she's in that mock. Like,
I thought she was supposed to say before the tournament started or something.
She might have already told Gino, and she's just I don't know. I thought that was the rule too for Gino. But those 3 players, and I'm trying to think of who. Sanaya Rivers from NC State. Watch her. But just from a first round perspective, like Cheyenne Sellers, Maryland, sure, watch her too.
There you go. All right. We are done. So hopefully everyone has fun with their March Madness brackets. I'm not doing the guys bracket just because I want to focus on the women's bracket, but it's March Madness. Like you can literally, if you're working from home, Thursday and Friday, you can turn the TV on at like 8 o'clock in the morning and watch basketball until like 8 o'clock at night, like if that
Yep.
is your jam. So
Yep.
those are two of the funnest basketball days just because there's so much going on. The men's side, I imagine, will have more possibilities for upsets, but maybe some of these women's games will be a little close. Maybe there will be some Notre Dame. How are they losing in the second half of this against Stephen F. Austin or whomever that team is?
I think in my personal bracket, I just might make them lose like a round or two early, just in case. It's my insurance bracket.
All right, so check if you want to join our bracket, you can check the links in the YouTube video summary as well as the show notes in the audio feed, and get those in before Friday morning. So you have a full day to get those brackets in. All right, for Bri, I am Double G. You know what we didn't do? We'll have to save it. We'll have to save what's Bri watching, and I'm sure you'll have more. But I did watch the Black Bag, which I think you saw as well. I would give a thumbs up. Nice little 90-minute kind of
in and out
little fun thriller kind of movie that was perfect. I thought it was perfect for what I was looking for on that Saturday. So thumbs up on that. I would say recommend.
Yep.
All right. For Bri, I'm Double G. We will see you when we see you. Peace out.